Today I'm going to show you how to create an Android library. And what that means is it allows you to write some bit of code that you can then import into any other Android project, and anyone else in the world can use it as well. You can reuse that code in all of your different projects. With the video, I'm going to show you how to create an Android library inside of Android Studio, how to publish it to the internet, and then we're going to actually import it into a random Android app to show that it works. And then for some more advanced things, if you want to stick along, I'm going to show you how to create an example project to develop alongside your library to be able to show off into your users of your project, get Kotlin set up, and also how to create multiple modules so you can have a library project that you can break up your code into many modules so users only have to import what they really need from your project. So to get started, we're going to open up Android Studio. I'm on version 2.2.3. It's the newest version as we speak. I'm going to start a new Android Studio project. And then there's the application name. Application name, type the name of your library you want to call it. So I'm going to call it logutil. That's the name of the library I'm going to create. Now, stick along with me and type the name of your library you want to create and then add example. Okay? Then you'll see company domain. If you want a domain name, go ahead and stick that in here. And then down here for the project location, I like to get rid of the example. Just my personal preference. Doesn't really matter. Everything looks fine so far. Keep going through and finish. Okay, so I mean, you've done this before. You're just creating a normal Android project instead of Android Studio. But we added example to the end, and that was what was different about this, because we just created a normal Android app. Well, an Android library is actually not, it doesn't have to be an Android app. It could just be plain old Java code. It could be Kotlin code. It could be some special view that you created for Android. It doesn't have to have, layouts and everything. We just created an actual Android app, not an Android library project, which we're going to be doing next. And that's the reason why I added the example to the end, because we created the example app, but we didn't actually create the Android library. So I want to make sure that they're named differently, so that way I don't name the example app the actual name of the library. I don't want to do that. So the project has been created, and we have a normal old Android app. Let's actually create the Android library now. Let's go up to File, New Module, and select Android library. Okay. Next, logutil, and this is where we can add, we don't need to say example anymore. We can actually say the name of the library. Okay, and then the module name, I keep it exactly the same. If you want to put hyphens or something in between and make it more readable, go right ahead. But I'm just going to call it logutil and move on. So now I've created the new module, and Gradle, of course, is creating it and syncing for me. Okay, so the Gradle sync is done. In Android Studio, if you open up the project directory structure, I'm going to go to project just because I could show you then I can show you the file structure a little easier of what we actually just did. So this is just like I'm now looking at the project like we would be viewing it inside of our file explorer on our computer. I have the logutil directory, and inside of that I have the project level build.gradle file. I have app, which is actually the original app logutil example that we created at the very beginning and that we just created, which is logutil. And this is where we're going to be hosting our library source code. Okay. So next, we're ready to start adding some code. We've created the library. It's right here, logutil, so let's add some code. you can add as much code as you want. You can add as many packages as you want. Doesn't matter, as whatever you want. And then also keep in mind, what's pretty cool is that inside of logutil, there's a build.gradle file. Inside this build.gradle file, you can enter whatever library dependencies that you want inside of here. So if you want your library project to depend on other libraries you've created or other libraries that others have created, if you want to refer to Recycler View from Google, and then whenever somebody in their app decides to pull your library, it'll actually pull your library and all the other dependencies as well, so it's all packaged, ready to go. But me, very simple, just creating this, so I actually don't need any other dependencies. Okay. So now I'm inside a terminal, and because I'm going to start working with some Git. By default, it does not create a Git repository for you. So I'm going to initialize one. Okay, we've initialized it, and we are now ready to git add period get commit -m create project in Studio, create log debug for easy debugging. Okay. So I just created a Git repository, and I created a commit and on the local machine. Next step is to go to GitHub. So I'm now in GitHub, and I'm going to create a brand new repository. If you don't know how to do that, go to GitHub, create a new account or log in, and then top right, create new repository. So log util, I like to add Android to the end so I can specify there's an Android library. Then I like to initialize repository with a README. I like to add an open source license. It's optional. Create repository. If you'd like to create a private, you may. I'm going to create it public and make it open source for anybody to use. But you may create private if you'd like. Keep in mind though that you just have to pay for the private hosting on GitHub, and you'll have to later on when we actually package this, you'll have to pay for some more. And I'll get into that later. Okay. So here I am. I am in a blank repository. My Android code is not here yet. So let's push that up. Git remote add origin. Okay. So what I did here is that I went to clone or download, click the highlight, copy, and I typed get remote add origin, and I pasted that link. So now I'm able to get push -u origin master. It's going to fail, okay? That is because I created a Git repo with a license file and a README file. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to type a special command, get pull origin master -- allow unrelated histories. Now, I don't recommend running this command just all the time, okay? I only run it here because if you followed along so far, it's safe to do it here. But what it's actually going to do is, because we have commits on this project here, we have commits of the other project, and there's no history in between them. Git is just trying to be safe for us, but I'm going to force them to go together. Okay. But again, I'm only doing this because on GitHub I created a license and a README. Okay, so I merged. Now I can do a get push. And success. All right, do a refresh over here, and we have code. All right, cool. we have now created a Android project. We created the Android library module. We added code to the Android module that we want to share with the world. We published it to GitHub. Now here we've pushed it all up. So now we're going to take a random Android app and we're going to now pull that library inside and use it. And to do that, I am going to use the service Jitpack. And what's really cool about Jitpack is that it allows you to create Java libraries and publish them to the world, or Android libraries and publish them to the world. And it's kind of like Maven Central, if you've ever heard of Maven Central or JCenter, but Jitpack is just a lot easier to use, where you don't have to have an account or anything. You just say, here's the repo exists from GitHub, download it. That's it. Very, very simple. So really all I have to do is go to any GitHub project. It doesn't even have to be mine. It could be somebody else's. I'm going to copy the URL, paste it here in the home page, click on lookup. Okay. And it's going to say no releases found, try a commit or snapshot. So what's really cool about Jitpack is that it allows me to, if I click releases, it gives me the error, there are no releases found. And those are get releases. So they are correct, there are 0 releases here. Or else it actually allows us to build our Android library from all the commits that we've created. So if I go the repo, go to commits, on the right side here you'll see like the hash 02216A3. 02216A3 right there. So if I want to download the code, if I want to download the logutil code into my Android app at the specific commit, I can using the commits. You just type get it. It tells you how to enter it in, and I'll show you that really soon. But actually, I'm very comfortable creating a Git release right now. It's better practice to create Git releases because, while you're developing, you can use those commits. But if you want to actually share this with other people, I recommend creating releases so that way you can say, here's a good release. I've tested it. It works, so that people can trust it. So I'm going to create a new release, and I'm going to just start out with 0.1.0 log debug class for easier log.d logging. Publish. And GitHub has created our first release. If I go back to Jitpack, click look up again, I can click on get it. So I'm ready to go back now to Android Studio. I'm going to close this project. I'm going to just open up a random app that I've already created before. Okay, so this is a random app, life feed, that I am going to now download the logutil library inside of and use it. To do that, Jitpack actually gives me some instructions. So to the root build.gradle, you need to add some code. What I mean by root is, again, I open up the project tab, this drop down, I click project, and what they mean by root is it's this one right here, not the one located inside of the app directory, but the one outside of it, okay? And it's saying that you need to add inside of all projects, that's this, repositories, that's this, add this code. And I already did. So I need to do that. So now inside of your actual app build.gradle file, which is your app specific one, we are going to add this code. And sync. Okay, so what this is doing right here is Gradle is going to be calling Jitpack and saying, give us the code, give us the package specified here. So what's actually really cool is if this is your very first time doing a Gradle sync with this project, with this release or this commit, Jitpack is actually going to build it for you and then give you the log back. It's already created it. So if you go to log util, I'm going to 0.1.0 is what I'm importing here. I can click on the log, and Jitpack will actually show me the log that it created for building the Gradle project. And we want to see build successful. If the build fails because you have a bug in your code, then while the Gradle sync goes on in your app, it's going to say that it can't find the artifact. And as you can see, it created the files for you. The build is successful. That's good. So make sure that while you're developing your library, check those logs in Jitpack to make sure that it is building successfully. Indeed, the Gradle sync has completed. Now I can go inside of my Android app. Just go to a random class and create and check this out. Log debug. There it is. .d random message. And there it is. In fact, I'm in a Kotlin file right now, but I can be in a Java file as well. Same thing. And yeah, I'm now calling the code that is in my Android library. So if you just wanted to create a basic Android library, as you can see, we've done that already. If you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me anytime. Check out my website, levibastian.com, for more of these. And check out the blog post that went along with this for all the notes for this cast. And get a hold of me and tell me what libraries you're creating or what questions you have. I'd love to hear about it. Let's go over some more advanced things with creating Android libraries. So for one, if you're interested, Jitpack does allow you to create private Android library builds. And what this is, what allows you to do is whenever you have private GitHub repos, then you can enter that in here. Click lookup, and it will have you sign in with GitHub, and then configure your project. And it's a few more steps to configure your project. Not the very, very simple, just add 1-2 lines of code. And then you also will need to pay for it. So keep those in mind, but very, very simple. Yeah, there's the steps to do it. Very, very simple. Love Jitpack. Okay, so that's one thing. Number two, let's create another module. So I'm going to go back to log util example. Okay, I'm back in the log util library that we created before. And while we're here, I want to show you, I want to talk about this app that we created at the very, very beginning. Remember when I had you type log util example long time ago? Let's dive a little bit into that right now. So what this is inside of log util, this actual project we created, it's going to include an Android app, and then it's going to include your Android library. What's cool about the Android app is that it's actually, the purpose of it is to be the example app of your library. So while you're developing this library, you should be using this app here to actually call your library code and to do tests on it. And then whenever you release it, you can then show people screenshots and have people download that app to be able to demo what your library does. If you are getting serious about your library, highly recommend doing this. Very simple to do too. So we're going to go to File, Project Structure. modules, so there's our logutil library. Click on app, then go to dependencies, plus module dependency, select logutil, the actual module we want to include, hit OK, hit OK, and then we're doing a Gradle sync. And what this did is that it edited your app build.gradle file. What it did was it edited this line right here, and it also added one line, compile project logutil, the name of the module. So that means we want to depend on this local library project. Okay. And now if I go into this main activity, log debug.d, cool. I can now call any of the code down here with log debug. So while you're developing, great way to test out your code to make sure it's working. All right. So let's go into let's talk about modules here. So whenever you are developing an Android app, you're able to, use this module, use this library, use this share code. But you always want to keep the APK size down, right? Compiles faster and also downloads faster for the user in the end when they want to download your app from the store. So what we want to do is make sure that whenever we share our library with people, we keep the size of the library as small as we can, okay? So sometimes if you're creating this library that might do lots and lots of functionality, but some users don't need all of that functionality, I recommend breaking that code down into separate modules. Let me show you what I mean. So if I go to GitHub, Jake Wharton, RX binding, this is an RX Java bindings API. Not important, but what Jake has done is, it's one GitHub repo, but he broke it down. So if you're someone who wants the RX bindings, like this is the full platform bindings, but if if you're looking for the support v4 library, the app compat, the design, rather than making someone download all of this stuff, but they might not need all of it, he allows you to pull it apart and download only what you need to keep your APK size down. And that's what I'm talking about here. So let's do that. So go to File, New module. You've done this before. Android library. And I created a log debug earlier. Let's create an error util. Module name is important. Last time we called it log util. I'm going to call it error util now. If you want to put a hyphen in there, whatever you want. All right, Gradle sync is done. By the way, now that we're creating more than one module, if you want to ever edit the name of a module, you can right-click on the directory, go to Refactor, Rename, then Rename Module. That'll allow you to click OK, type the new name of the module, and that'll allow you to make sure you do it through there. Don't just rename the directory, but rename the module. And Studio will take care of renaming it for you. I recommend doing that as sooner than later so others who are downloading it from Jitpack don't have an error. Okay, so I created error util. My new Android library module. Let's go error debug. And I'm going to copy a lot of the same code here as log debug. I recommend, if I was actually going to create a library that did exactly this, I would stick it in the same file, in the same module, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to make it separate. Okay, so I changed the D to E, the D to E, literally that's all I did. And then I'm going to go back to terminal, get add period, git commit -m create new module for easy error debug logging. Git push. Okay. That was easy. All right. Close. Really, that's all we had to do. We've created a new module. So now I'm going to go back into the live feed app, the random Android app that I'm going to pull the code in. Okay. So this is how we imported the original module. And there's a little different syntax if you want to download an individual module, not the entire project. So it's originally we typed com.github.levibastian or whatever your GitHub username is, and then colon, name of the GitHub repo, colon, and then the git tag. Oh, that reminds me. I should create a new git tag because we created some more functionality. 0.2.0, keeping with semantic versioning, I add functionality, add error debugging module, publish. Okay, so now Jitpack is going to catch that, and I have 0.2.0. Okay, so again, we're back to the Android app. Compile com.github.levibastian, the username of the project I want to download. Now, instead of colon name of repo, I'm going to do period name of repo. And then colon, and then name of module, so log util colon 0.2.0. I'll explain this really soon. com.github.levibastian log util Android error. I forgot what I named. Okay, so I have log util and I have error util. So log util, error util, 0.2.0. Okay. Now I want to explain something. This is going to still work. Even though we added new code, we pushed up to GitHub, and we created a new Git release, this is still available for anyone in the world to use. Okay? Now the difference is, because we only had one module, Jitpack does not actually split it up into different modules for us. So we had to create a new module for this functionality to work. And anyway, I could even update this to 0.2.0. And if I was to do that, I'm going to download the log. I'm going to download the log debug class and the error debug class that I created, both of them. And the problem is, though, that when I download this, it's going to download all of the log util library, all of the error debug library, and even the sample app. So again, it's better to break it up into the modules, so I only download the code for log util module and only the code for the error util module. So if somebody only wanted the error, they don't need log util, or vice versa, okay? And they don't need the sample app. So this is still going to work. I don't need to split up with the modules and then download everything, but it's better too. Okay, the Gradle sync is complete, no errors, which means here's that previous log debug. If I type error debug .e error message. I can refer to any of the code in the logutil library or the error debug library modules. Awesome. So that is how you split your code up into different modules. One last cool thing. This is for if you are a Kotlin developer. If you're not, strongly recommend it. Okay, I'm back inside of the logutil project of mine. And this is how to create right now, logutil, errorUtil, and the sample app are Java only. They're not Kotlin compatible. So let's make it so I can type Kotlin code inside of the libraries, and then I can distribute that to others. So if you go to the Enter Action menu, which by default is Control-Shift-A on Mac, it says Enter Action or Option Name. If you type configure to, type configure Kotlin and project, and then this will pop up Android with Gradle, single module, then select whatever one you want. Now I have two of them, so I can just repeat the same exact process. And really, very, very quick. What it does here is inside of the logutil specific build.gradle file, it adds apply plugin, Kotlin Android. It adds this source sets, which I always just delete anyway because I'm going to keep all my Kotlin code inside of this Java directory. I don't want it. I don't need a separate directory for Kotlin. It doesn't matter to me. And then it adds all of this code down here to compile the Kotlin. And then in the project-based directory, it adds this class path. Okay, so it does that for you automatically. So if you want to now add Kotlin functionality to the errorUtil, you can open up that build, that Gradle file, copy the plugin, copy this code down here and there, and then do a sync, of course. But we now can type Kotlin code inside of the errorUtil or the logutil project. And that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please check out the blog post for all the notes for this. Also, you can hold me anytime if you have questions. And also share with the libraries that you're creating. I'd love to see them. If you are somebody who enjoys learning new programming techniques, learning new tech, if you're just interested in random programming things, go ahead and check out, again in the blog post, my newsletter for side project hackers, where I just teach you a little new programming exercise every now and then. Thanks for watching.